Good evening, everybody, and welcome out to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe on Mallet Creek Church Road. Matt Swarad alongside the Niners head coach, Alan Major, here every Thursday. The rest of the season, we have a little break, though, coming up for Christmas. This is our last show for the holidays. We're back here on January the 6th. We're also going to take your email questions this year as well. The email address is major49ershow@yahoo.com. That's major49ershow@yahoo.com. And the questions brought to us by 49erfanatics.com, the weekly email segment. Our phone number, you want to give us a phone call, is 704-358-8768. 704-358-8768. Had a busy week of basketball last week. The Niners winning against Winthrop and losing at Davidson last Saturday. Off for exams until tomorrow night as they take on the Tennessee Volunteers, ranked right now 7th in the country. That'll be at Time Warner Cable Arena tomorrow night. So, Coach, it's been a busy week, and you had the exams this week for the players, students on campus out for exams, and in between all that, you got to get ready for a pretty good team of the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, definitely. The guys are happy that the exams are finally over. I think our last guy had one today, and got that knocked out. So, that taxes the brain a little bit. You prepping and studying for 2-hour exams, and some comprehensive, some not. And then obviously, with Tennessee's been in the focus all week long, and being right at the front of our at the front of the hood for us. So, it's good to have the exams out of the way, and now we can go play tomorrow night.
And classes don't start again until sometime later in January, so you guys have the attention of your players 100% now. It's nothing but basketball for a while, so as coaches, that's got to be fun. And I would think for players, it's as close to being a professional as you're going to get for some, and an experience that's going to get them ready for the next ranks maybe for others.
That's right. No, definitely. And we actually we're fortunate enough today to practice in Time Warner Arena. So, guys enjoyed that, looking around. And it's funny, everybody moves out to that other three-point line just because it's there.
It's funny when you don't know how far away that second three-point line is. It's amazing when you stand there and try and shoot one from there.
Yeah.
Because it is a considerable difference, isn't it?
Yeah, 23 feet, 9 inches. It's closer in the corners. That's why you see guys in the pros, launching from the corners a lot. It's about a foot closer. But no, it is good when that break time, you kind of we've joked about having that training camp type of a mindset, with practicing, and you're able to do that. You're actually able to bring in guys and get extra shooting and things like that. And if you're a player, you gotta love it, because you basically get your workouts in, you practice, and you prep and obviously play games. But outside of that, you're right. You're basically a pseudo pro, for about 3 weeks.
Our phone number is 704-358-8768. If you're in the area, we're at Wild Wing Cafe out at Mallet Creek Church Road, not that far from the campus at all. And come on out to ask a question, grab some dinner. We're here until 8 o'clock on WBCN tonight. Coach, during the season when classes are going, there is the rule where you can only practice so many hours. I think it's 20 hours a week.
20, yep.
Does that limitation still exist when school's out?
Does not. That's only when classes are on. So, when break is going on, you can pretty much, do as much or as little as you want. And you still try to be smart about it because you're still playing games and you don't want to go nuts and that type of thing. But the biggest thing is individually, I think that's where you really get to make strides with guys. You guys get to come in and, if you practice at 3 o'clock, we definitely don't want them sleeping until 1:30 and then waking up and coming in. So, a guy might come over at 10 o'clock, 10:30, get some shots for 30, 40 minutes, go eat lunch, relax a little bit, and then come back and practice. So, if in the pros, they're notorious for just getting the most out of their day. They eat breakfast, they take care of their bodies, they rest, but they hone their craft too. And I think that's the time that you can use during this break of honing your craft, whether it's through film or through skill.
How difficult is it to to bridge the part where campus is kind of quiet, students are gone, but you still have a job to do with the basketball, but it is the holidays, and some of the guys maybe in their mind are thinking they'd rather be home. How's it tough to kind of get them focused? You got all this time now to focus on basketball, but
right.
It is a difficult period, I would think.
Yeah, it can be. I think sometimes the younger your team, you may run into that, but with us, we got some experienced guys, and so. The biggest thing, you just really try to get them to focus on the task at hand. Like today, all of a sudden you're not in Halton Arena or you're not in the practice gym, and you're practicing in Time Warner, and there's a tendency to look around and kind of gaze at the building you're in, as opposed to, okay, we got practice right here. But guys did a good job of doing what we asked them to do, and we got in there and did what we got done. So that's the biggest thing. You just try to say, hey, you control what you can, and that's the moment in front of you, and that's the practice in front of you, or the shoot around, or whatever it is. And, yeah, it can be challenging sometimes if that stuff is sandwiched between the holidays.
Going back to the game on Saturday, which was Davidson, that's the last game we had since the last Allen Major show here. It was a great renewal of the rivalry for bragging rights in Mecklenburg County and the Hornets Nest Trophy. I thought it was a really nice atmosphere. We had a lot of fans make the trip over to Belk Arena. And, we talked about it after the game on the postgame show. I felt there was a period in the second half, maybe 7-8 minutes into the second half, where I started to think that we're getting tired. And the depth factor kind of started to get into the mix a little bit. As we look at the Bojangles section here, we talk about a changing point in that game. Where was it you felt like things started to go more towards Davidson's side? Yeah,
it was. There was a 7-0 run that kind of sticks out in my mind. It was 39-36. And, we actually had the ball a couple different times. They had the ball a couple different times. It was almost like a little tug of war going on there. The JB had just hit a 3 to cut it to 3. And, it goes back and forth, back and forth. And all of a sudden, I think we had 2 straight turnovers. And then they ended up hitting the 3. I think either McKillop or Coolman, one of those guys that hit a 3. And all of a sudden, it's 46-36. So think about just the landscape of 3 or 4 plays, and that's usually what a lot of games come down to when teams are fairly even and the game is fairly right there. It's going to come down to 3 or 4 plays that can sway it, one way or the other, and that probably was the point that allowed them to kind of get a little breathing room, going from 39-36 to 46-36. Just those 2 scores right there, they sound completely different, even, so. To me, that was the point where they probably got a little bit of their energy back, and which helped their crowd, probably get back in the game as well.
It was a 1-point game at halftime, and going into halftime, were you satisfied with the way the game was kind of playing out right there? Or did you maybe think in the back of your mind, okay, it's a 1-point game now, but that wall might be coming? They really kind of came at us with a lot of players, 10, 11 guys off the bench.
Right.
Did you sense that was going to be an issue maybe, or did you feel like you were in a pretty good position at that point?
Well, I felt good. I mean, because we hadn't shot the ball well. I think, first half, we had some great looks in the first half. You probably remember there was extra pass, inside out, skip across, and had 2 or 3 that just didn't go down. So I thought that, if we continue to do that, then some of those would go down. We actually shot 46% in the second half, which is terrific. But it was that those defensive lapses that got us, starting with that one, that we just mentioned. And I think they had another one later on where they pushed out and got to double digits a little deeper. But I actually felt great going into halftime. I'm like, we haven't shot it well. We're down 1. And I thought we really competed hard. A couple shots that Davidson had hit were tough shots. We defended pretty good. 30 points and a half on somebody's home floor is just what you want. You're on pace for, 60 to 65, which is kind of that range we'd like to defend in. So, but you're right. That's the next step for us is coming out and especially the start of those second halves, having those second halves mirror more of the first half.
We've played them so many times, and in the past they've had some good teams. And when they had Curry, of course, they had a very good team. Had a good point guard that year as well. But as I watched that game kind of play out the other night, they're relatively young, and it looks like they've got a lot more depth than they've had in a long time, and some more athletes across the board. That they've always had 1 or 2, but I thought they had 6 or 7 guys that could compete not just in the Southern Conference, but in a lot of different places around the country.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get established like that and you've had some success. You're actually able. 2 things happen. Number one, you're able to recruit, what's perceived to be maybe a little bit over your head, and so you end up getting some guys that could probably play at some other places, but because you've had some success, your culture's in place, all those things, you're going to get some guys that you probably shouldn't get, which is one thing. And then the other thing that happens is your guys that are older, you're not having guys leave early. So you're able to sometimes get a guy that may be a low major plus, mid-major minus guy, but if he's in your program for 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden he's like a mid plus to high minus guy because he's improved and developed himself literally in a 2 or 3 year span into a level higher than he was probably recruited at. So that's the development part that happens when you at programs like there, like your Gonzagas or, where one guy's kind of had his deal in place for a long time. You're able to have that in addition to if you can have some success, you're able to recruit maybe a notch above what you normally would.
Speaking of development, as we look at the Time Warner Cable stat stuffer right now, Javaris Barnett, who knows a lot about that rivalry, being a Charlotte guy.
Right.
I thought had one of his better games in a Niner uniform. We're seeing more and more great things coming out of Javaris.
Yeah.
He's done a nice job. We talked about it last week on the glass, rebounding all season long. But now it started with the East Carolina game in the first half. You saw him be more aggressive on the offensive side.
Yeah.
And against Davidson, he really kind of stepped it up another level, I thought.
Yeah, no, I tell you, proud of him because and we talked about this before, when you go from almost being a borderline or maybe even a non-rotational guy, I consider, or your main rotation, like that top 8 or, that 9th guy is right there on the fringe. And, sometimes you say 8.5 guys, in a rotation. But to him to go from that to doing what he's doing now, it's almost maybe, even though he's a junior, in a way he's a sophomore in terms of playing time and time on the floor. So, he 5 rebounds a game. He's feeling better about shooting the ball. He's not hesitant at all, and that stuff for us is encouraging. And so, guys like him, guys like Gokin, they're just slowly growing into these roles that it's like putting on new shoes. You got to break the new shoes in, and they're going to squeak for a while, and they're going to feel funny around the edges for a little bit. But the more you wear them, the better they feel, and that's kind of how those two are growing in their roles, and we're proud of their progress.
Does the success that they're having, boosting their confidence, does that help their aggression level in terms of just being a little bit more aggressive on the offensive side? In the past, maybe JB's a little more passive, not look to drive like he has. That dunk he had at East Carolina, he took his guy off the dribble and threw it down on somebody.
Yeah.
And then on the fast break the night at Davidson, he jumped over someone to dunk it from midway through the lane. So that's an aggressiveness we've not seen from JB. And you look at his personality; he's a very laid-back young guy. If you know him like we have for so long, as long as we've known him, like who is this guy? I mean, he's becoming more of a complete player.
Yeah, no, and if you think about the jump of I'm not sure where he was last year, 9th, 10th guy to starter. I mean, that's a major jump. Because usually in the scope of a lineup, a guy's going to be 9th, 10th guy, then he's going to be that 7th, 8th, which is kind of like that next rotation, the outside of the main rotation, and then maybe he goes to a starter. So, JB's almost skipped a step as far as going from maybe out of the rotation or on the fringe of the rotation to, he skipped 8, 7, 6 and went right into the 5, So for him to do that and kind of grow into his role and guys like Deuce and Dario have done a good job of just kind of helping those guys, come along and find their way. They're figuring out where those guys like to shoot the ball and how to get those guys shots, and which is helping their ability to be distributors and complement their scoring. So, the more we can spray it around, and when we move it around and spray it around, that's when we're at our best. And so the more confident more guys can feel, absolutely, that's the best for us.
Well, Coach, the phone number is 704-358-8768. We've got the emails as well we want to get to tonight from 49erfanatics.com. If you want to send an email, we have the ones for tonight, but you want to get on the next show, which is coming up after the new year, the email address is major49ershow@yahoo.com. That's major49ershow@yahoo.com. And today's first question comes from Mark Nunn. And Coach, Mark asks, I remember a few years back when Anwan Wilderness had a huge game at Time Warner Cable Arena when the Niners played Wake Forest. That was 21 points that night he had against Wake Forest. Even got a #1 play on SportsCenter's top 10 that night. So his question is, has Anwan shown any extra excitement about playing the Volunteers tomorrow? at Time Warner Cable Arena, and he's hoping to see him there and have a huge game again.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm with Mark on that one. Hopefully we, if he knows anything we don't, tell him to call me. We'll call Sports Center to get him ready. But no, I haven't, he hasn't said much about it. Anwan's kind of a quiet guy, doesn't draw a lot of attention to himself. But I did hear him and Phil today. They were stretching before practice. They were reminiscing a little bit about the game in there before. And, they kind of had a couple of laughs about it, but. Anwan's just your journeyman, comes to work every day, lunch pail guy, as they use that phrase in sports. He's going to bring it. You know what you're going to get. He's a great teammate, and having him and Phil being the most experienced, and throwing Charles in there too, although Charles won't play. But I think the experienced guys know what it takes in games like this. What you have to bring. And so that's what we're hoping him and Phil can, in the next 24 hours, and as they've done, this week, kind of just, spray into everybody else, the Gokins and JBs, maybe the guys that are kind of new kids on the block in terms of the rotation of what it takes against a team of this caliber.
It's kind of amazing when you look at Anwan and how he did get to Charlotte. He was a great scorer at Dunwoody High School in Dunwoody, Georgia. And when he got here, I think having scored as many points as he did in high school, I think a lot of folks thought this guy's going to come in and average 20 points a game. Yeah. He's very unselfish in that regard. Yeah. But there are days, and that Wake Forest game was one of them, when he had a great offensive game. Can you maybe explain a player that maybe is a great scorer in high school and comes to the next level and maybe adds different things to that team, and why he's not going to score as much as he did in high school, but he's still a big contributor each year?
Yeah, that's it's amazing, because whenever you look at the makeup of a college team, you could literally say to each guy, okay, he was the number one option on his high school team. He was the number one option on his high school team. He's the number one option on his high school team. You could literally go to every guy and say that. So now it becomes, when guys get to college and you're talking about shot selection and moving the ball around and having balance in the lineup, it's, all right, we're not in high school anymore. How does Charlotte get the best shot every time down? And Anwan's, is one of those guys that kind of a jack of all trades. He'll find a way to fill the stat sheet in different ways. You could watch him play and feel like maybe he didn't do very much. And then you look at the stat sheet, it's 8 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal. And he's done a little bit of everything. So, funny story about him. He's actually, when I got the job, he was the first guy I called. Because I recruited him a little bit when we were at Ohio State. We were messing around in Georgia and trying to expand ourselves a little bit. And I come down to see him a couple times in high school, got to know his high school coach at Dunwoody real well before Anwan went to Patterson School. And so, the Friday night, after finding out I'd gotten hired, that was the first guy I called on the team just to touch base with all the guys. And the first thing I said is, hey, you couldn't get rid of me, could you? So we had a laugh to kind of break the ice with this whole thing. But it's been fun coaching him because, again, he's a lunch pail guy, and you know what you're going to get every single day.
Our phone number is 704-358-8768. We're up against our first break. Before we take the break, though, I want to wish a very happy birthday to a special 49er fan, Jason Feltus, and his friends at 49erfanatics.com. I want to wish him a very happy birthday today. And also, Signature Sports Group is thrilled to announce a new banking relationship and welcomes Fifth Third Bank as our new official bank of Charlotte 49ers basketball. Fifth Third Bank, the things we do for dreams. See what Fifth Third Bank can do for your dreams. We'll take a break here on the Coaches Show, the Alan Major Show. Come back with more. We'll come back with a TIAA Craft Student Athlete Spotlight feature. And our player interview segment's coming up a little bit later on tonight as well. This is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe on Malley Creek Church Road. Matt Swerve, Niners head coach Alan Major, as we're getting ready for the big game tomorrow night at Time Warner Cable Arena. Niners take on a top 10 team in the Tennessee Volunteers. This is a rematch of a game that was played at Knoxville a year ago. And that was an entertaining game. Had some moments where the Niners had chipped away at a rather large deficit for a moment and made it a pretty interesting game. And then all of a sudden, a couple of huge threes by a walk-on kind of changed the momentum and got 17,000 fans wearing orange on their feet and kind of got the balls jacked up again. But it's always fun when you take on a team in the top 10. And the last time the Niners faced a team at Time Warner Cable Arena that took on Maryland and came back from down 20 and had a chance to win that ball game, ended up not winning it, but I thought learned a lot from that game because then a week later went to Clemson, was ranked 18th and undefeated, and beat them leading wire to wire.
Yeah.
So what, as we look at a team like Tennessee, Coach, does it do for your team to play somebody of that caliber?
I think you need these games, you play them so you can kind of cut your teeth and see where you are. And obviously, you go into every game, you're coming up with your keys and your things that you think you need to do to win. So, it's not a deal where you just want to make a good showing and have a good, give it a good run. I mean, you want to go in there with the intention of trying to knock them off. So, but it gives you a measuring stick on where you are, because if you aspire to be a top 25 team in the future, and that's we want to put Charlotte in that conversation, down the line, you need to see, what the intensity level of those teams, what that's like. And there's a reason why they're there, whether it's Tennessee or, an Ohio State or Purdue or Michigan State. Teams that are ranked, there's some common threads in their performances. And so, so it'll be great for us. I'm excited to see the progress we made since last Saturday. And, where the guys that have been coming along and growing into their roles. With KJ, we still don't know if he'll be able to jump out there or not, if he gets clearance. We'd love to do it. So he's been able to practice some, but not, some things he's still been held out of. So, we'll see how that goes. That'll, as they say in the NFL, pros game time decision, as they say. But no, I think you use these games to see, see where you stand. And it's a great measuring stick.
Well, hopefully that game time decision for you all is a positive one, because I know as somebody like KJ, you could certainly use depth, one thing, but just somebody of his ability against Tennessee tomorrow night.
Yeah.
8 o'clock tomorrow night, so a little bit later tip at Time Warner Cable Arena. For tickets, call 704-687-4949. Our phone number here is 704-358-8768. 358-8768. We're here for another 32 minutes or so at Wild Wing Cafe out by the University of Malley Creek Church Road. So if you're in the area, stop by. Let's go back to the email segment brought to us by 49erfanatics.com. This question, Coach, comes from Ryan Swenson, and it's about Tennessee tomorrow night. He said, Coach, Tennessee looked great when they beat number 3 Pitt on the road last week, and then they were beaten on Tuesday, just a couple days ago, against Oakland. That was 89-82. Oakland goes into Knoxville and wins that ball game. He said, do you think the win over a rugged Pitt team contributed to their surprising home loss to Oakland? And how much harder is it to prepare for a team that just got upset? And for Tennessee, it was their first loss of the season.
Right.
And, coming off that Pitt win, so kind of a double whammy for you, I think.
Right. No, I think, I don't know Coach Pearl a ton. I know him a little bit, having competed against him in the past. So I know he's been into him pretty good, the last couple of days. I think we can all figure that out. But that can happen, when you go on a roll. And, sometimes big wins like that can be followed by what you call a little bit of a hangover. Not to say that that's what happened against Oakland, but that's part of sports. 1 year at Ohio State, our first year there, we were ineligible for the tournament. We had to self-impose due to some things that had happened under the former staff. And last game of the year, beat an Illinois team by 1 who was 29-0. It was Darren Williams and D. Brown and all those guys, and it was just a euphoric victory. Just one of those things where it can be a hangover sometimes when you have a big victory, and that was a huge victory over Pitt that they had. So preparing, you can't really control how they're going to come out. They'll be chomping at the bit because of getting upset at home, but at the same time, hey, we got to control what we can, and that's us being ready to compete at a high level.
Now, one thing about Coach Pearl, he certainly looks like he enjoys what he's doing on the sideline. And, he has that bright orange blazer. I'm sure he's not going to bring that tomorrow on the road, but
right.
He's been wearing his orange suspenders. My question is, when are we going to see the green suspenders and a green jacket? You've been trying to work in the somewhat green in your tie.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it looks sharp, but it hasn't really been Niner green. I've got some green socks. I'll wear the socks if you get some green suspenders.
Yeah, the reason why you win in that deal, though, is they won't see your socks and they'll see my suspenders. So I lose on that one. You get to sit behind the table across the way, and your socks are under the tarp, over the table. But no, trying to work the green in there. There's something in green in every tie, every game, so that's a given. But the jacket, I don't know. May talk to the Masters people and see if they can lend one, once in a while. But that green jacket belongs in golf, maybe. I don't know about basketball. But if you're wearing that green jacket, you're a pretty good golfer. But no, definitely got the green in the ties, no doubt.
704-358-8768 is our phone number. Last night I was driving home and again caught Basketball and Beyond on the satellite radio, and I bring it up because the guest of Coach K last night was Thad Matta, head coach at Ohio State, good friend of yours. Of course, you were assistant under Coach Matta for 9 years. You talked about his philosophy and what he's been accomplishing at Ohio State, and you're a big part of that. Top 10 team again. When I heard him talk, a lot of things that I've been hearing you say, it seems like you learned quite well from Coach Matta. And talk about, not so much your philosophy, because we've talked about that a little bit, but, in times like this, it is a new experience. You've mentioned how this is all new to you, first-year head coach, and you've had some great things happen. We've had some unfortunate things happen. Do you call upon people like Coach Matta for advice and just seeking ways to maybe map your way through certain things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of his favorite phrases that he's adopted, I stole from him, is smart enough to know I'm dumb. So, but you're right. I mean, these times, whether it's through text or phone call, and I know he's busy, and you never want to bother anybody else, but he's been great as far as just saying, hey, at the end of the day, you be who you are and do what you do, and make this thing always about the players and making guys better, and developing the type of culture, which that's one of the words, probably two words that probably sum him up, are culture and vision, because he's developed a phenomenal culture up there in terms of the types of kids, the skill development, things done in the off season. Just how guys handle themselves, how they conduct themselves academically, all the way through things doing in the community. That culture, and then the vision obviously is having a championship level program. And even if you don't win a championship, it's having a championship mentality, because champions usually act like champions before they become champions, and that is something that he instilled up there, and there's a reason why they're champions now. And 4 out of 7 years, with the Big Ten title, and those are the things that sometimes you hear the voices of people that you've been around in the past, and when I hear his voice in my head, sometimes that's what I hear. It's just, hey, just keep building the culture that that'll be successful, and don't take your eyes off the vision that you want for the program down the line.
How tough is it when you're thinking of things like that, and you have a concept of the way you want to go and approach something, and you think, well, maybe in the short term it might be better to do B instead of A? How tough is it to kind of keep yourself on that track and say, okay, in the short term, maybe this is not what's best for everybody, but in the long term, it's best for not just this team and the players and the school, but the future of this program? Yeah,
and those are tough decisions. I was talking to one of the guys with Fox Sports yesterday, and I basically just tried to use the analogy that coaching is probably, and you're going through this now, like parenthood. They can write all the books they want, but there's no owner's manual for parenthood. So as those girls get older, there's going to be some things that come up that you've got to trust who you are, and you've got to trust the people that have instilled things in you and your life. And that's what you're going to use to steer the things in your daughter's life. And lives. So that's kind of what happens with this. When you have stuff that's unexpected, or things come up, whether it be injuries or, any of the things that we've had to deal with, there's no book that you can just kind of pull out of your hip pocket and say, okay, page 37, 2 ACLs. What do you do? There, what you do is you say, hey, next play. And that's Coach K has used that phrase a lot. Coach Mata, we use that phrase a ton at Ohio State. And next play means, sometimes next day. But it's the next thing. And if a guy misses 3 shots in a row, hey, get to the next play. If you commit a turnover, get to the next play. And so life will throw you some things. And so the very next thing you do is you get to the next play and you put everything you have in then what that next thing is.
Our phone number again, 704-358-8768. We're going to take a break right now, but when we come back, got our special player guest today. It is Jamar Deuce Briscoe, Niners point guard, sophomore from Baltimore, Maryland. We'll talk to Deuce after this break. This is the Alan Major Show from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center here at Wild Wing Cafe, and it's all from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to Wild Wing Cafe and the Alan Major Show from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center with Coach Major. I'm Matt Swarad, and today our special player guest is sophomore Jamar Deuce Briscoe. And this segment brought to us by Ortho Carolina. Ortho Carolina, you improved. Deuce, great to see you. Happy holidays. Hope you're doing well.
Happy holidays to you as well.
It's an interesting time of year for you guys. Just finished up finals today. That's got to be a huge weight off your shoulders, I would imagine.
Yeah, thank goodness finals is over. It's been a long week for all of us. I know Coach been wanting us to come in with a lot of intensity these last couple of days with practice, but you put all your focus into these finals. It's hard to come in sometimes with all that intensity and energy.
Everything go okay with the classes this year?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm glad I finished up.
Have you? You're just a sophomore, but have you decided on what your major might be yet?
Right now, I'm a history major. Coming from North Carolina Central, I was a psychology major. I did have a lot of interest in that, but right now I switched it to history. That's what my interest is right now.
That's what I actually got my degree in as well, a long time ago.
Well, I need to talk to you more.
I don't know. Your grades are probably better than what I had during my time.
Hope so.
Tennessee tomorrow night. You got to be excited about it. You guys just practiced today at Time Warner Cable Arena. What was that like?
It was a great opportunity. It was a great experience as well. Like as a kid, these are type games that you definitely want to play in. Hopefully, it'll be a great environment as far as the crowd. You want a lot of a packed crowd. You want to play in front of that. But playing in the Bobcats Arena, it shouldn't be no explanation for that. You know what I'm saying?
You guys certainly play awfully well at home at Halton Arena, but we've had a couple of games at Time Warner Cable. It used to be called Bobcats, and home of the Charlotte Bobcats, the NBA. We've played well there. Is there a difference when you go to a bigger venue like that, you being a guard and a shooter? That's not as big as a dome with the depth perception, but it certainly is much bigger than Halton is with the depth behind the baskets. Is that something you guys have to really adjust to?
Yeah, like you said, as a shooter, you definitely want to adjust to the depth and different rims. And the court seemed a little bigger today at practice. I don't know if we was tired, but it seemed a little bigger at practice. But definitely as a shooter, I know I try to get out there as early as possible so you get up as many shots as possible because you have limited time when you're playing in arenas that's not necessarily your own. We kind of split the time today, us in Tennessee, with practice time. So, yeah, but it definitely makes a difference.
Coach has described you as a guy that certainly is a great worker, not just in practice, but on your own time, going in and taking extra shots and really a student of the game. When you think about, getting here to Charlotte, going from North Carolina Central, and from there, making the jump here, what have you learned in the year that you sat out? Because it's got to be tough for a player to be a guy like you who was second in the country in freshman in scoring, trailing only Seth Curry when he was at Liberty a couple of years ago, to being a guy that always had the ball in his hand, always was on the floor, to having to be an observer for a year. What did you learn when you had to sit out?
Well, actually, that's what I did learn. I did learn the things off the court, like you said, being a student of the game, whether it was watching film or like the extra shots by myself or late nights in the gym. That's what I did learn. I mean, at Central, I still had that drive, but sitting out and playing against the one, it just gave me another drive, another motive to want to get better. like you said, Central was more. It was more the ball kind of been always in my hands, and I knew the situations would change at Charlotte, and I wanted that situation to change. It actually takes a lot of pressure off. But I just wanted to be more consistent with my shots. I wanted to be more consistent with my shots, hit more shots, take less shots, but make more shots. You understand what I'm saying? And that's basically what it is. With the coaching staff that came in, with Coach Major and his staff, they were a big watching film kind of staff, and it helped me. Watching film has helped me. It slowed the game down a lot. That whereas though things are easier and shots are easier for me, and they look better, they feel better for me. So I really appreciate them as a staff for that. But I mean, it's still things I can improve on, and I'm trying to improve on those things as well.
We're talking with Niners point guard Jamar Deuce Briscoe. When you are working on your own, just in the gym by yourself, is there a routine that you have? I mean, some guys want to take 500 shots. I've heard guys that they'll stay there until they hit 1,000 shots, and that's going to take a while. Is there a routine that you have that you aren't comfortable leaving the gym until you've accomplished that?
Actually, it's funny. It's kind of funny you said that. I'm still trying to work on a routine that I can just stick with. But for right now, when I hit the gym, I start inside out. I always start inside out, and that's if it's from layups to 3-pointers or just mid-range shots. But I always start inside out first. So that's kind of been like my routine. But I kind of come in with a different one every time. I just like being in there. So whatever I can do to get in there is just something I try.
The point guard position. What's that like in terms of, you're a guy that you have scored a lot, but one thing you mentioned trying to score more by taking less shots, and I've noticed, especially this season so far in the games that you've had over 20, it's not as if you've been forcing your shot. You don't force the offense, but yet you've been pretty successful scoring the basketball. What's it like in the point guard role where, I guess the main job is to distribute the ball, but for us, you're also one of the main scorers, and for the guys that are here now, you're the leading scorer of this team. So what's that like, merging both those aspects of the game?
I mean, things that help me with that is film. Film is, like I said, another way. It allows me to get better off the court, and with me shooting, it's less. It's good. It is good that I am hitting those shots, and as a shooter, you know you're going to come into slumps here and there. So with me being consistent and trying to be consistent and being more consistent, I guess it's a good thing right now that I can hit those shots consistently, I guess. One
more question before we let you go. Put your coaching hat on for a moment. Take the spot of Coach Major. Give us the scouting report and the breakdown on the Tennessee Volunteers. What makes them so good, and what do you guys got to do tomorrow night?
We got to beat them on the glass. They definitely they don't rebound as well on the glass. They like to push the ball at you. We kind of would like, I don't know if you want me to say the whole thing. We'd rather for the point guard to take more shots. So whereas the leading scorers, Cam Tatum and Scotty Hopkins, if the point guard is taking more shots and they get less shots. So that's kind of how we going into the game.
Well, Coach Briscoe, good job. We'll see you tomorrow night. Deuce, great. Thanks for stopping by.
All right, thanks.
Deuce Briscoe, our point guard, sophomore from Baltimore, Maryland, our guest here in the Allen Major Show tonight. We'll take a break. Back with our final segment. Take some phone calls if you want to call. 704-358-8768. Might throw in one more email question tonight as well. We'll break down the Tennessee Volunteers when we come back also. This will be the last show before Thursday, January the 6th. We'll take a break for the holidays. Come back here Thursday, January the 6th. The Allen Major Show continuing. We'll start getting into the thick of A10 play by then as well. Back in a moment. This is the Allen Major Show from Wild Wing Cafe, the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe out by the university with Coach Major on Matt Swerat. Niners getting set for the big game tomorrow night uptown at Time Warner Cable Arena. They take on the Tennessee Volunteers, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Good seats available if you want to come on out. 704-687-4949 is the ticket office number. Give them a call tomorrow. And our pregame show tomorrow starts at 7:30 as we'll start breaking that one down. And we'll start doing a little bit of that right now with the Niners head coach. Coach, Tennessee, very talented. We know that. Very deep team, and they're getting even deeper tomorrow, getting a player that actually just came back against Oakland, transferred from Marquette. How does he change that team?
Just gives them more depth. You know, they're a team that comes at you in some different ways. Their biggest thing is, in a nutshell, easy baskets. You know, whether those easy baskets come through transition, it's probably a team that would prefer to score inside the arc as opposed to outside the arc. Don't shoot a ton of threes all over, but they got some very capable guys that can make them. But the biggest thing whenever you get an extra guy, because Winthrop had kind of gone through that, I believe, right before we played him, we got the kid Corbin back. And so just add some depth. And so, you know, that's the biggest thing. But, again, I think the underlying thing for us to be successful is to really try to eliminate their easy baskets, because that's what makes them go.
Jaron Mayman is the guy I'm talking about. The guy just became eligible against Oakland. He came from Marquette. You go back to the game last year, and the walk-on I was telling you about, Skylar McBee. He's the guy who came out and drained some huge threes. And the situation they were in last year, losing the players after the incident they had with like 3 or 4 players, I think it might have been 3 last season, forced the Vols to have to go deep in their bench, and in doing so, they probably found a diamond in the rough in a kid like McBee, I would guess.
Exactly. No, that's what happened. Kind of mirrors what we've gone through in some ways, as funny as that sounds, you know, with, you know, kind of emergence of JB and Gokin moving along. And, you know, it's amazing sometimes what trials and adversity will do. You know, there's always the initial negative side of it, but sometimes there's things that come out of it that you didn't expect. And I think that's what happened with him. And now what he's done is he's made himself, like our kind of catchphrase, a rotational guy. You know, and it took, you know, him maybe some other guys having some things, you know, negative happen. But as a result, they found a guy that they've kind of been able to throw in there and have great trust in their lineup.
The coach's son, Stephen Pearl, also plays on that team, gets quality minutes. And Coach Summit of the women's team, her son now is a walk-on there. So it's a big family affair in Knoxville these days.
That's right. No, it is. It is. And Coach Pearl's son, he's a you know, mirrors his dad in terms of the style of play. And he's a tough guy. You know, I think he's the strongest guy on their team. I heard on one telecast, I think he benches 185 29 times or something like that. Yeah, he comes in, gives them quality minutes. He's a hustle guy. He gets dirty, you know, gets on the floor. So, yeah, I mean, they're you look at their kind of their main rotation. They're looking at, you know, 9, you know, probably a minimum of 10 as well.
4 guys scored in double figures. Scotty Hobson leads the way, over 16 a game. He's a pretty explosive scorer. You know, they have a lot of different ways they can beat a team. Against Oakland in the second half, they had a pretty good lead in the first half. In the second half, kind of a situation where they couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, couldn't hit a 3. I think they're 0 for 11, 0 for 13, something like that. And Oakland, they almost beat Michigan State recently. This is not as big of an upset as I think a lot of folks in the country think when they hear of, well, Oakland went to Tennessee and won.
Right.
Oakland's had 4 or 5 games against Big Ten teams where they didn't win, but they felt like they probably should have, especially that Michigan State game.
Yep.
So when they went to Tennessee, they weren't intimidated.
Yeah.
And when they got that opening, they took advantage of it.
Yeah, no, they're a battle-tested crew. They got tremendous guard play. They've been through some wars already. So playing Michigan State and Auburn Hills just a few days ago and being right there, I'm sure got them thinking, hey, you know what, we're not that far off. And we played Oakland. I was back at Xavier, and you know, we were ranked. And Oakland came into Xavier as part of a tournament. We played them in the first round, and they gave us everything, you know, that we had. And so, traditionally, though, they do a great job recruiting in that Michigan area, but they also have the benefit of getting some transfer guys and some guys that will kind of fall back into their lap that are seasoned. And so. I don't know the history of this year's roster with Oakland, but I would bet they probably got 2 or 3 guys that have been through it, you know, maybe somewhere else, and now you step in and you take a situation like that, and all of a sudden, you know, that raises the level of the play in the program.
You look at Tennessee tomorrow, very athletic, especially the guard positions. What kind of trouble do they pose for us tomorrow night?
If you're them, you know, with that type of depth, they're going to try to wear us down, I'm sure. But, you know, our mindset is, hey, you play 4 minutes at a time. and with their pressure, they may try to pick up and go full court. They haven't been as up the floor this year as they've had in the past in terms of being all over the place. But they may, and so if that comes, then we'll handle that accordingly. But the biggest thing is probably if you're them, you're going to try to come at us with the depth and whether it takes 15, 20, or 15 minutes in the second half or 10 minutes left or 5 minutes. That would be my guess. Their MO is to try to see if they can get us to that point. But that's been our focus, is not having that breaking point. So I'm excited to see how we attack, and especially as the game wears on, our ability to sustain our level of play.
When you go into a game, whether it's this one against Tennessee or another one where you want to break it down, you're talking about 4-minute segments. Is there a point where you're not really worrying about the scoreboard? You're just playing those 4-minute segments, and when does the point come up where, okay, now you're playing scoreboard, where you may have to change what you initially went out for a game plan to do?
Yeah, I think as you get through the first half, I think towards the end of the first half, you start thinking that it starts to get a little bit more situational where you want to finish the half as strong as you can, and if you have to manage anything, into the first half, but usually about that 10 to 8 minute mark, usually, especially from that 8 minute mark on down in the second half, the game at that point is kind of taking a shape to where that last 8 minutes is going to have to be managed a certain way, whether it's even, how do you get separation? If you're down a little bit, how do you close and hopefully take over? Or if you're leading, then how do you maintain or get more separation as opposed to, dealing with comebacks? So by that 8 minute mark in the second half, every game, kind of takes a life of its own, and it's got its own face. And so and from that point on, it's those last 2 4-minute wars are going to give you a lot about what you need to do with the situation.
Well, it's a blackout. We're asking folks to come out and wear black tomorrow night. Niners going to be sporting a new black uniform they've never worn before. It should be a fun night of college basketball, and hopefully a great crowd downtown.
No, I'm sure it will be. We're looking forward to seeing the Niner Nation strong down there.
Coach, thank you, and good luck tomorrow night.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
The Alan Major Show tonight from Wild Wing Cafe from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center. And it's always brought to us in part by Masson, home of college basketball. College basketball master, this game is true. Be here at Wild Wing Cafe University for all the Niner TV viewing parties this year, including the Georgia Tech game coming up on January the 2nd. That's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for joining us. Our show tonight has been engineered and produced by Daryl McCray, doing double duty here tonight for Coach Major. I'm Matt Swarad. Join us tomorrow night, pregame show 7:30 from Time Warner Cable Arena. So long, everybody.